Hello everyone, hope you're doing well. Today we're back on the second update 1.91 dev server, and there's a new premium vehicle in our midst for the Soviet tech tree. Yes, we now have the MiG-17AS, which seems to be a Cuban MiG-17 of all things, and it sits itself a battle rating 8.7. Now this is kind of odd, since the standard MiG-17 is at 9.0, and the copy of the MiG-17, the Shenyang F5, is also at 9.0. But the Shenyang F5, at least, it has air-to-airs, and also the major difference it has between the other Soviet machines is the fact that it has the Shenyang liming engine, which gives it a bit more power, and also gives it the war emergency power idea. You're able to overclock the thing if you want to, discuss it like that. I'll just show you the difference. So with the MiG-17 and the MiG-17AS, you can't go past 100%, where with this machine you can. See, you can use war emergency power, you can get the flame up, and all of that Bob's your uncle wonderful stuff. But the difference between the MiG-17 and the MiG-17AS in the Soviet tree is the only real differences seem to be this one is rank 5, this one is rank 6. The MiG-17AS has access to R3Ss as air-to-air missiles as a rank 4 modification, where the MiG-17 has access to multiple different secondary loadouts which are not as powerful as air-to-airs, or at least in the context of what you're going to be using it for, which is generally as an aggressive fighter. They're not as useful as the R3Ss, which are available here, which have an 800 meters per second maximum speed, 3.5 kilometer lock, and also an overload of 6G. So not the best in the book, they're not the greatest missiles around. I still think that goes to the Mistral or the helicopters that we have. It still doesn't show the Mistral stuff, that's kind of sad. But anyway, yeah, so I don't understand why this is 8.7 and this is 9.0. They both have the same engine, they have exactly the same performance, but this thing gets air-to-airs. And this thing gets different secondary armaments in the form of bombs. So I find that very odd, personally. Anyway, let's have a chat about the MiG-17AS. It joins its brother, the Bish, as another 8.7 premium. My guess is it's going to be a pack vehicle, since it didn't seem to be available for GE. On top of this as well, it hasn't really been announced anywhere, so if it comes to this update, it would be kind of a surprise, because of the fact that it just hasn't been a pre-order bundle or anything like that. So if this doesn't come out in update 1.91, don't be surprised. If it does come out in it, it will be interesting to see how it does come out. Now, the other thing to also mention is it is a MiG-17, so it has the one pilot, it has the Klimov VK1 engine with 2450 kgf, then it has access to the 37mm N37D right here with 40 rounds of ammunition and two 23mm NR23s. A lot of people don't like these guns because they see them as not as high muzzle velocity as some of the stuff it faces, and also at the same time, you have very limited ammo. So it's definitely not as friendly as something like a Saber, which can just keep tossing out 50 cals until its heart's content. So you've got to be a little bit more accurate with this machine, you've got to be a little bit more punchy, but the muzzle velocity, in my opinion, is still good enough to be able to do a lot with it. You also get different belts available for you, depending on if you're running, if you want to run air targets, which is the heavy, or the armored targets, which is just APIT on the 37. Basically what you get here is 40mm worth of penetration, which is pretty good. It's not the best, but it's good enough. Or you can run a mixture of both. The 23s get default armored targets, air targets, and stealth. The armored targets give you access to AP, but only 29mm of pen. Air targets are mainly fragmentation incendiary, and then you've got stealth. So for me, I just go full air targets just to try and do the best that I can. If I run up against anything which has armor, then I generally struggle. So hopefully that's what we can count on the missiles for. The other thing to also mention is it has huge fuel tanks in it, so you can see the one behind the pilot here, and also one coupling the engine itself. As I've said, it's just a MiG-17. So you've got steel 10mm here, you've got bulletproof glass 60mm here, and then steel behind the pilot, so trying to keep him alive. So hopefully that does that. And yeah, there's not really a lot else to say about this machine, so let's take it into a test flight. See how it handles against some other enemies. But the main thing is, it's just kind of weird how this machine has just come out of nowhere. Generally, when you see machines like this, there's some form of pre-order bundles, or there's some form of bundles which make a lot more sense than just a random Cuban MiG-17, unless it's supposed to be for some sort of event, or if it's supposed to be added to this patch at a later date, maybe then I see it. It also means that, we have a scenario now where we have another nation which has another 8.7 machine, but should it be 8.7? In my opinion, this thing has the same flight performance as the MiG-17 in the general tree. The MiG-17 in the general tree is a 9.0 vehicle. So why do we have a vehicle which is, in all intents and purposes, exactly the same? Let's see the lights work. Why is it sat at 8.7? Is this an indicator that they're going to move down the MiG-17? And if they don't move down the MiG-17, should they? Because you've got to keep these two vehicles on par, just like you have with the MiG-15s, with the BIS and the Bish. And then with this machine here, is it a sign that we're going to see a lower down vehicle? The problem is, though, is if you keep doing this, if you keep forcing everything to be in that 8.7 area, instead of having an area... Oh dear, we've had a bit of a crash, have we? If you try and force everything into the 8.7 area, you're going to end up with exactly what you have in ground vehicles. You have the 10.0 BR, which everything gets sucked into. Then you have the 8.7 BR, which is just a whole bunch of premiums that people like playing. Now, it's not as bad in aircraft right now. You still have some around that area. You have the Bish, as we've talked about. You also have stuff such as the... Oh god, that sounded interesting. Huh. You have the you have the Bish that we've talked about. You have stuff like the F-30. You have other machines which are a little bit higher BR, so it's a little bit more spread out. It's not just 8.7. You got stuff at 9.3. You got stuff at 9.0 as well. Are these the new sound effects? Oh, they sound kind of nice. I like that. But it also raises the question, if this comes out at 8.7 and the other MiG-17 stays at 9.0, I think there is a definite case here that we can say that this premium is unfortunately a pay-to-win vehicle. Now, I understand people are going to say that, well, it doesn't have the same armament options when it comes to the normal MiG-15 BIS, the MiG-17. Like, it doesn't have access to the wonderful bombs and wonderful rockets that nobody ever uses because radar-guided AA exists, and also there are just better options in the grand scheme of things. So, instead of that, you can get a vehicle which has air-to-air missiles that is going to be much better at what you normally play, which is going to be air realistic with this thing, or air arcade. So, with that said, it kind of sucks that we're in this predicament, and I hope it gets fixed. I hope either this goes up or the standard Tech Tree one goes down, but we're going to have a few words about these things. We already have a situation where in naval we have a bunch of destroyers which are in effect just better versions of we have just destroyers which are better versions than their Tech Tree counterparts, and then now we've just got another destroyer for the Germans which was added, which is just a better version of another Tech Tree counterpart. I don't want to see the same thing happen for aircraft. I don't want to see this scenario where we have just better versions as premiums, because then we start having to have the discussion of the whole pay-to-win angle, which I don't think is a bad discussion to have. If anything, it's a great discussion to have, because holy hell, that is loud. it's a great discussion to have, because you've got to keep the checks and balances in the game itself. And with a vehicle like this, it definitely proposes a unfortunate issue, which is that checks and balances might not be properly conveyed in the game. So that is something we're going to have to think about. The flight performance of the MiG-17 is generally very good. I'm very happy to see 2 more versions of it technically. One in the Chinese tech tree is a better version of it, and then the other as this MiG-17 right here. It's one of those nice things to at least say that, you know, we have another vehicle which has nice pedigree in the game, which is generally very nice to fly. For me, the MiG-15 feels incredibly heavy, where the MiG-17 has that little bit more maneuverability, it has that little bit more fun to it, which is, you know, something that, as a person who doesn't particularly enjoy jets, it's what I look for. You know, I look for machines that will give me a fun time instead of something which is going to be crazy competitive. And not saying that the MiG-17 is not competitive, it's just not something I wholly go for. But you can see the maneuverability of this, the ability to just chuck it around. It does feel nice to do. And getting guns on target is definitely easier to do than compared to some other vehicles. Overall, I am happy to see this premium in the game. I'm just worried about its BR, which do change quite a lot on the dev server, so you don't have to be too worried. But at the same time, it's something that has to be brought up. My god, that missile, where did it go? Anyway, I hope you all have a wonderful day, and I'll see you next time. I'd just like to thank Ambrosius McClellan, B. Young, Blackie, Daniel Stanton, John Ryman, Joseph Anders, Martinez, Mopar 1969, Moxie, Super Cacti, Uyans Terry, and Elove Goats, and of course Seductive Trash Can for supporting the channel.